something. What happened? Mills for liberty. Gnostic sex cult building his own world. A Gnostic sex cult unhinged from reality. Totally lost it. What can we do? The mocking relentlessly. It's not a Gnostic sex cult, James. No, it's not. Stop lying to your audience. No, it's not. It's not Gnostic, James. Mary Nardini tells us queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Catch up, James. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. Whoa. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's capitalism. To pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity. Gender binary and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. To believe in something. What happens for liberty? Gnostic sex cult building its own world. Gnostic sex cult unhinged from reality. He's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly?
Hey, what up, everyone? Welcome to The Cult. The Cult is a show that I stream Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, and on Rumble, where we do deep dives into all different elements of what's going on in the world today, from the far left to the far right to everything in between to anything I feel like talking about on any given day, because, it's my show. I'll do what I want. Can I tell you guys, I am exhausted. I'm so tired. And I'm so annoyed you guys can't see the red in my hair. I don't know why it's not coming out on camera, but like my hair looks way redder in person than I'm gonna have to dye my hair like a lighter shade of red so it actually comes across on camera, because it actually looks way redder in person than it does here. Whatever. I'm exhausted because I was up until all hours of the night streaming like a moron, engaging in drama and all that stuff. And it's just like, I think I have finally reached the point where I'm just like, I'm over all the bullshit. I really am. I'm just like, I don't care anymore. And it's just like the people that get obsessed with every single thing a person tweets and every single thing that they don't like that's said online. I'm like, yo, I got no time for this. Like, one of the things I didn't stream last night was apparently Brittany and Mio over on Cozy did a whole stream where like they were like being like, we're gonna bring the wrath of the gripers down on you. And I was like, I don't even care. First of all, I don't actually think that's true, by the way. I don't think it's true at all. I've actually heard from a bunch of gripers like in my DMs, and they basically have told me, they're like, Carlin, don't pay attention to Brittany and Mia. Like, most of us don't even really like them, so don't worry about it. You're fine, like whatever. Like, and so like Mio going on an unhinged tear over on Cozy be like, "Wait, you better watch out." It's like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, well, you know what? You joke. You joke. But there are people who actually believe this. There are people who believe that because I tweeted something that they don't like 8 years ago, that I have somehow tormented them in some way, and I'm like, "Bro, you can just unfollow me." Like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Yo, Azerwing, to help you dye your hair communist red. Well, I don't want it to be communist red. I'm just really upset that, like, I don't know what it is about the lighting in my office. I have plenty of light in my office, but like, it just doesn't. The red is not coming across on camera. I mean, I'm not mad at the color that's coming across on camera. I guess you can see it a little bit, but way more red in person. But hey, I appreciate the super chat. Let's add that to our little progress ticker down here. Anyway, so I was up late last night streaming about things that I shouldn't have been streaming about. Maybe if you know what this is? Maybe this is finally the motivation I need, because I've been saying for 2 years I'm gonna paint my back wall. Like, I want to do it like red, but not like a bright fire engine red. I want to do it more like a kind of like just a little bit deeper than that, not quite burgundy, but somewhere between like fire engine red and burgundy, where it's like not bright red, it's like muted a little bit, but like a really rich color. And I want to hang up all of my socialist and communist propaganda, because not enough people are confused and think I'm a socialist. Like, only about 50% of conservatives think I'm a socialist. So I have to redo my entire office so I have a wall behind me of socialist propaganda and just various things that I've gotten at conferences and things like that. And that way I can confuse more conservatives into thinking I'm a socialist, because they look at pictures instead of actually listening to what's going on. And so I've actually been planning on doing this for years. I've got a whole mess of like propaganda. I just haven't done it. And I want to change out the art that I have on the back wall. Not that I don't love this art, but I have better art now. Even though some of this is really good art. That's a Salvador Dali. My create paintings. This one over here, this one on the left, I know you guys can't really see it. This painting has gone up like thousands of dollars in value since I bought it. It's like one of my best art purchases ever. One of the best. Anyway, Naruto says, last night we all died and went to hell for 4 hours, and now we're back. I need something with I survived the first white dudes for Harris Zoom call. Yo. That white dudes for Harris Zoom call, that was something else, man. Maybe that's why I probably ended up streaming until 4 in the morning. I was so perturbed by that. And like, congratulations to everyone who made it through that Zoom call last night, because I legitimately wanted to kill myself. Okay, not really. I didn't actually, like, I'm saying it more figuratively and colloquially, YouTube. I did not hurt myself. I never would. But I really wanted to last night. I just wanted the pain to be over. Even though I had alcohol and I was kind of drunk by the end of it. Like, it was a lot. I sat there thinking, and I was like, how did I believe this when I was a Democrat? What was wrong with me? Was I really just not paying it? Like, here are the questions I have. Like, was it the same back then and I just didn't see it for some reason? Or has it actually gotten worse and like more virtue signally? But I like, which makes it easier to see it now. But I'm like, was it the same back then? And I just like, those are the kind of thoughts that really frighten me, because then I think, what are all the things that are happening now that really I should know better, but I'm just not paying attention to it. I'm not looking closely enough at it. I'm not, like, you can only think about things critically. You can only think about so many things critically at one time, right? Your energy can only focus on so many different elements. And so if it, like, there could potentially be so much crazy shit going on in the world that none of us just have any awareness of, because we're focused on this crazy shit over here, but the other crazy shit is happening over here, and we're just like, we don't see it at all. Anyway. So I thought we could take a little break today, and we're gonna, well, I don't know if this is taking it easy necessarily, but this morning, while I was still asleep, recovering from being awake until 4 a.m., This morning, there was a Senate hearing, a Senate judiciary hearing on the Trump assassination and the Secret Service failures associated with the Trump assassination attempt. And so I thought we would watch it. We would do our civic duty and watch a Senate hearing. I've actually kind of gotten into watching Senate hearings and House hearings now because when you actually sit and watch the whole hearing, these people say some of the craziest shit. It's kind of like watching socialism a little bit. It's like you have to get through a lot of word salad, you have to get through a lot of like boring stuff, but like when you hit those moments where we're elected represent like members of Congress just start to go off the rails, you're like, yo. And it's always like a surprise when it comes up. Like, remember when we were watching the Columbia hearing and that one Republican congressman said that Columbia was going to be cursed by God if they didn't support Israel? And it was just like, and it came out of nowhere, and it was like a biblical verse, and it was like, you are an elected member of Congress in an official hearing, and you are telling an Ivy League school they're going to be cursed by God if they don't support Israel in a congressional hearing. Like, it's just stuff like that. It's like you can't buy this type of entertainment, and we all pay for this. And so I kind of like watching these types of hearings just for that reason. I actually do want to, like, hopefully we actually get more information and more answers this time than we did with the Secret Services director that testified. What was that, last week? It seems like a million years ago now, but it was probably just last week. So we're going to be watching this, and that's what we're going to do today. We are going to do our civic duty. Now, before we get into it, just a couple orders of business, guys. Number one, of course, it's Tuesday. And that means Disenrage is back at 9 p.m. And for those of you who don't know, Nothing Remotely Controversial with Joshua has sadly concluded. And I talked about that last week, and there's no hard feelings or anything. I actually just had a meeting with Joshua earlier today. I have a meeting with him every Tuesday. And so I don't want anyone to think that there's any hard feelings or any like fights happened or anything like that, because that's just not what happened. There were other reasons that there are things going on in Joshua's life that we're going to make it very difficult. And so that's all I'm going to say, because sometimes you guys don't need to know everything. All right. But I am really excited that we're going to be doing Disenrage with Jennifer at 9 p.m. on Tuesdays from now on. I think I might have said Thursday, but you guys all knew what I meant. So 9 p.m. So we're pushing the start time back half an hour to start on the hour instead of the weird 9:30 time that we always went over anyway. And tonight, Jennifer and I are going to be talking about times when we have been visited by spirits and ghosts and kind of like what that was like. And you guys can share your stories and you can ask questions about it. We might touch on some other stuff too, but Disenrage is just a show. It's not about politics. It's not about current events. It is like about supernatural stuff and spiritual stuff and aliens and witchcraft and tarot cards and chakras and crystals and all of the things that I like to talk about when I am not living in the insanity that is politics and the socialist dystopia, that just make me happy. And I think it makes you guys happy too. And if you haven't yet met Jennifer is awesome. So I hope you will come by and join us tonight for Disenrage episode 18, what it's like to be visited by spirits and ghosts and that sort of thing. And I've got some stories to tell. I know Jennifer has some stories to tell. And if you guys have some stories to tell, we want to hear your stories as well. And so we'll be doing that at 9 p.m. tonight. You can find it on the channel. And guys, remember, Joshua is still alive. Joshua didn't die or anything. He still has his own YouTube channel. So you can still go follow him. It's all good. You can still get your fix of both. So anyway, that's what we're going to be doing at 9 p.m. As always, please make sure you head over to my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. If you are wondering why there were drag queens in the Olympics, yes, there is an answer to that. And it all has to do with queer theory and trying to abolish the gender binary and trying to destabilize norms around gender and that sort of thing. We now know that it wasn't actually as nefarious as attacking Christianity, since the actual painting that it was based on was a pagan painting about Dionysus, not the Last Supper. But still, I never even, what's funny is I didn't even say in my article it was about attacking Christianity. That was a lie that all the conservative Christians told to on Twitter for days on end about being poor victims of the world. Anyway, there is actually a highly rational example about why they're using drag queens in the Olympics. I explain why in the latest article in the Woke 101 series, and you can pass that around to your friends, family who are just looking for more information about like why is all this crazy stuff going on in the world. You can find my full Woke 101 series by heading up to the menu item. You can find it right there, and you can get all my articles where I basically break down the basics of like all the crazy stuff that's happening, and I explain to you why it's happening. That's just one of the things you're going to find over on my Substack. If you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me in business, because I am 100% grassroots funded by you can sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. That does keep me in business, and that would really help out. Another way you can support the work I'm doing is by heading over to the Unwoke Art store. This is my merchandise store. That is unwokeart.com. There you go in the chat over on YouTube and Rumble. Links are always in the description below as well. And I still have a couple more days to get the Notice collection for 25% off. This is a design I made based off of kind of like the idea of like Clockwork Orange in terms of like when I first started red pilling, especially to like the JQ stuff, like I felt like I was in that scene in A Clockwork Orange where you're strapped to the chair and they have these things around your eyes and they're holding your eyes open and you can't close them and they just start showing you all the craziest stuff. And I thought I was fully red pill before, and no, I wasn't. And then I just started seeing all this crazy stuff that I couldn't unsee. And so I channeled my angst and my rage at all of the ways that I have been lied to about what's going on in the world into this design. I based it off of the Clockwork Orange, but like not directly. It really is more about like red pilling and noticing things you never noticed before. And that's why it says notice up at the top in the Clockwork Orange font that is used on the movie poster. I think this is a cool design. This is actually one of my favorite designs. I know I say that about everything, but this one I just think it's a different one than I normally do. You can get the t-shirt in different colors like orange, or you can get it in a neutral. A lot of people have been asking me for lighter t-shirts, so I'm starting to accommodate that. I just think that everything looks best in black because I think black makes color pop. We've also got a cool orange tumbler. Like, I think that looks pretty rad. Honestly, we've got hoodies, we've got sweatshirts, there's prints, there's bags if you want to buy them. Everything with this design on it is 25% off until the end of the month. And then it's going to go back up to normal price. You don't need a coupon code or anything. Just put it in your cart and the discount will automatically be taken at checkout. And again, that's only going to be available for 25% off for the next couple days. And of course, I do really appreciate it, guys. And also, last couple of days to get the July edition, limited edition, black on black Plague Doctor shirt for the Unwoke Wiki. I do a different Plague Doctor every single month, and these are limited editions just for that month. And it says it's got the Plague Doctor on the front, and then it says the socialist revolution is real, with directing to people to the Unwoke Wiki website, which is where we're trying to document kind of like primary source evidence about what's going on so people can actually find this stuff and see for themselves without having to go through any other outlets, stuff like that. That is only going to be available for the next couple of days in the Unwoke Art Store. Lots of other great stuff in there as well. You can scroll around, have a look. Lots of cool designs. Not to pat myself on the back too much, but I think I have the best merch on the internet. No big deal. And all of that does fund the work I'm doing, and I really do appreciate it, guys. Got a couple more super chats from Murphy's Pool. I need to know everything. I mean, I can't guarantee that, Murphy's Pool, but I do appreciate it. Thank you. And then Naruto, for the conservative Christians in the back, the Olympics is a Greco-Roman tradition, not a Christian one. That's why it's dumb to assume it was the Last Supper. And you can say that because you are a Christian. See, I'm not allowed to say that because I'm not a Christian and will never become a Christian, but you are allowed to say that, Naruto, because you are a Christian. So you can tell off the Christians and no one cares. But I say exactly the same thing. Everyone has a massive fucking hissy fit meltdown, streaming about me, complaining about me, making drama for me, like insinuating I'm on Milo Yiannopoulos' payroll, which, you know, if the Groypers really wanted to push me closer to Milo Yiannopoulos, the very best strategy is to say, Carlin, fuck you. You are going to spread a rumor that you're on his payroll anyway. And I'm like, well, if you're going to spread a rumor that I'm on his payroll when I've never even talked to the man, then, you know, do you want me to be? Is that what you want? Because the very best way to get me to do something is to tell me that I'm not allowed to do that thing. And then I'm going to be like, oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? We'll see. Anyway, thanks for the super chat there. Let me just add that to the total, guys. I do have a goal for super chats, a modest goal of $100 super chat per stream, just to kind of keep things on track, give you guys some sort of objective to meet. 20 people decide they like my stream enough to donate $5. We meet that goal, and it's really not that hard. Anyway, let's get into it. But da-da-da-da-da-da. We are watching today's Senate Judiciary hearing. And it is about the attempted assassination on Trump. And we're going to see what's what. Everyone mount the like button for me. If you don't feel comfortable mounting the like button, you can high five the like button. You can give the like button a kiss on the cheek. You can give the like button a smack on the ass. You can hold hands with the like button. You can put your arm around the like button. You can do whatever dirty thing you want to the like button. The like button doesn't judge. The like button consents to everything. Just do something to the like button. Let's get this party started.
Chairman Durbin and Ranking Member Graham will ask the first two questions. I will then ask question Ranking Member Paul, and then after that we will alternate between members of the Judiciary, recognized by Chairman Durbin, and members of the Homeland Security Committee, recognized by me. With that, Senator Durbin, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Senator Peters. I would like to begin by making a statement that it's not in the form of a question, and you'll understand why when I say it. In 20 days, we're going to start the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. I have been briefed by the law enforcement agencies plans for security for that event. Tens of thousands of people will be there, including some of the highest ranking politicians in the United States. I trust that both of your agencies can answer in the affirmative if I ask you whether you're actively engaged in working with the development of security plan, taking into consideration the lessons of July 13th.
Senator, that is 100% yes from the Secret Service.
Yes, from the FBI as well, sir. We've been working on this for well over a year in preparation.
I'm not going to ask for details for obvious reasons, but I do want to ask a question about the Secret Service staffing. Congress has nearly doubled the budget for the Secret Service over the last 10 years, from $1.8 billion in fiscal year 2014 to $3 billion in fiscal year 2024. Despite this large increase in funding, the number of agents in protective operations has fallen from 4,027 to 3,671 during that same time period, an approximate 9% reduction. Acting Director Rowe, what accounts for protective operations losing 356 agents over the past 10 years?
So, Senator, with respect to where we are today on staffing, and then I'll address the 10-year where we were. In this year alone, we are going to end the year on the positive of 200 plus agents. That's the first time in a number of years that we've been able to do that. Part of that was gaining some efficiencies in our hiring process. But what I want to re-emphasize is that we have not dropped standards. Only 2% of every applicant actually makes it through the hiring process. We are filling our classes at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center.
If that's true, then why did they have tiny little women guarding the president or the former president? That makes no sense. Why were they part of the 2%?
We are doing this ramp up as part of what lies ahead of us with the LA Olympics in 2028. With respect to what has happened in years prior, this is a difficult and challenging job, being a Secret Service agent, living your life by somebody else's schedule, constantly away from your family, constantly having to meet increased operational and investigative demands, which we gladly do, but it's not for everyone. And I think there are times where people have to make tough choices and they decide to leave the agency. But that doesn't mean that they were any less of an agent or that they weren't committed to the mission, because we are all committed to being patriots and serving our country and protecting our nation's highest leaders. I think there was a variety of factors. Some of it was the pandemic. Some of it was, the economy or other opportunities. We have people that are very skilled in cyber that often leave the job. Some of the protective skills that they acquire are also in demand in the private sector. But some of the mechanisms that we put in place just in the last year is also retaining our workforce. And that's what we are focused on right now.
The Government Accountability Office has determined that restaffing from these losses have been slowed due to a number of factors, including the years-long background checks for prospective agents and the assignments agents must work through before being assigned to protection. Given these constraints, what steps have you taken to improve recruitment?
So we're actually putting out targeted recruitment opportunities. So we've just recently put it out for within our uniform division for our counter sniper unit, our hazardous agent medical emergency response unit, our counter assault team on the special agent side. So we're actually trying to gather the best and the brightest. And I will tell you that we are having great success with a lot of these vacancies. But what I want to reiterate is that, for example, on the counter assault vacancy, we had 700 applicants that applied for this. Really, what we will glean after they make it through the process, and they have to be able to hold a top secret SCI clearance. Will be, if we realize 15 out of that tranche, that's a 2% pass rate. So it is very competitive, and we are trying to make sure that we are getting the best and the brightest without dropping standards.
One last question for either one of you. What is the purpose of a rangefinder? And once this assassin was identified as using a rangefinder, wasn't that proof positive that he was a dangerous individual?
So I'll say, Senator, that obviously somebody is trying to determine where they are in proximity to a location, a fixed location. I'll defer to my colleague here, but I believe it was a recreation or sports related. I thought I had read that it was a golf range finder. Nonetheless, it still would have provided him the ability to provide the distance that he was away from his intended target.
Wasn't that enough?
As far as raising suspicion,
Yes,
I think he was identified as being suspicious by local law enforcement.
and nothing happened.
Well, I know that local law enforcement was attempting to locate him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ranking Member Graham.
Thank you. Let's go back to the resources. Do you need more money?
Senator, listen, there isn't a single branch or a single agency in the executive branch that that needs more money. Everyone would take more resources. We've had a great relationship with the Department of Homeland Security, the Office of Management and Budget.
Do you feel constrained to ask for more resources by anybody?
No, sir, we don't. And actually, we have a great relationship with our appropriators and obviously the authorizing committees, and they have always looked out for the Secret Service.
So I would encourage you to think big when it comes to resourcing the department in light of what happened here. At the time of the shooting, the Iranians were threatening high-level American officials, including President Trump, right?
And here it comes. Iran was behind the assassination attempt on Trump, so we have to go to war with Iran. Everyone knows that's bullshit, right? Everyone knows that it was not Iran that wanted Trump assassinated. It's probably the CIA. It might have been Israel. It sure as shit wasn't Iran, though. That's absolutely absurd.
Senator, it's widely known.
Right? FBI?
Yes, Senator.
Yeah, they want to go to war with
100%
Iran.
Does that
correct.
factor
Lindsey Graham
into
wants to go
the
to war with Iran.
security footprint?
So, Senator, what I will say is that it is widely known that the Iranians do not like us. I would refer you to the National
Well, it's not
Security.
that they don't like us. They threaten to kill certain people,
Yeah.
and they named them.
Correct, sir. But I can't publicly
It's
comment.
not like, I hate America. I'm going to kill these three guys.
Right. I cannot publicly comment, sir, on.
Well, they publicly comment on it. I mean, it's not
But
what.
Senator, what I'm trying to say is I cannot publicly comment
Okay.
on what
Fair enough.
intelligence, but I
Fair
can
enough.
assure you that we do a threat-based protective model.
I'd like to have that model provided to the committee. Could you do that?
Yes, sir.
Could you also give us the protocols that are in place to secure a site like this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Bro,
One,
you're
the
totally
protective
right.
detail
You're
around.
totally right. We need a fascist dictator immediately. Absolutely. If only the right fascist dictator would overthrow this absurd system and just outlaw everything, just outlaw queer theory, just outlaw communism being taught everywhere, outlaw every fucking far left political group. I absolutely agree. We need a worthy dictator right now to outlaw every fucking crazy thing in society. And I really do think that's the very best way that we can move forward. I'm really glad we're on the same page.
Around President Trump, I know them all very well. They're brave men and women. And these questions is not to belittle anybody. They're trying to find out how the system fails so badly. You say you're not
Bring back
reluctant to ask for
McCarthyism.
more money. What do we
Bring
need to do to
back
make it easier to
McCarthy.
hire people without
We
lowering our
need a
standards?
better
I mean,
McCarthy.
I know it's a hard job. Can
So-
we do anything to help you?
So I think we're willing to take that back, sir. I think we're working on our time to hire. We've
Well, if you had
actually-
more people, you'd have more time off.
That's true, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
well, let's get more people, more time off. These are tough jobs. I mean, people on this committee know.
Yes,
I don't
sir.
know how they hold a family together doing what they're doing. It's the military really on steroids. The encrypted app. Paul, can you tell
No,
us
I'm not
about
joking at
these
all.
apps? Have they been
Not at all.
broken into? The guy had some apps that were encrypted.
I think we've experienced a range of returns on this. Some of the applications that he was using online were encrypted in nature. Some of the email accounts.
Have we
that he
broken
was,
into them?
We've received returns. There are some that we have not been able to get information back because of their encrypted nature.
Is there any way to
That's true.
solve that problem?
Sir, Senator, we've talked about this before. We need a solution that provides lawful access to law
So
enforcement.
you're telling me the guy that took 8 shots at the president, former president, has apps that we can't get into that may, if you could get into, reveal some relevant information.
That is correct, Senator.
So if he were talking to some foreign power, and I don't think any foreign power would hire this guy, by the way. So I'm not overly worried this was some great plot by the Iranians because they couldn't even think of this. However, there could come a day where something like this is very important. How do we solve this problem?
Senator, as we've been saying, we need a solution that provides lawful access where when we go to
So
a
you're telling
company-
me, I agree with you. I'm not blaming you. We have encrypted apps of an assassin, a murderer, and we can't get into them all these days after. That needs to be fixed, folks. I'm all for privacy, but to a point. What
I'm
if
all for
future,
privacy, but to a point.
somebody's using these apps
Mhm.
to communicate with a foreign power? I think we need to know these things. We need to know them in real time. So lessons learned is that everything failed.
Wow.
Corrective action. Seems to me you need more money and more people.
Bro.
Accountability. At the end of the day, how many people do you think will be relieved of their duties, Mr. Rowe, because of this?
Senator, I publicly cannot, and I cannot weigh in on that right
Sure.
now, right? It has to be a fair and neutral
Absolutely.
process.
From a
right?
fair point of view, would you say this is a major system failure at every
Yep.
turn, and those in charge of the
Lindsey
system
Graham
in
wants the
question?
government to spy on all of us.
Not only was it embarrassing, they
The
failed.
government already is spying on all of us.
So Senator,
Joke's
again,
on us.
if there were policy violations, those individuals will be held accountable and they will be subject
Just
to
send
our
us the
table of
policies
penalties.
if you could.
Yes, sir,
Thank
we
you.
will. But they will be held to our table of penalties, which
Thank you.
will include up to termination.
Thank you.
Director Rowe, in your testimony here today, as well as in your written testimony, you said very, very clearly that you can't defend why that building with the shooter on top of it was not better covered. You were very clear. You cannot defend that. So my question to you is, my understanding is that there's a detailed site survey that is done prior to an event to identify potential threat points. So talk to me about that site survey. I'm sure you've had a chance to look at it now after action. And how did that site survey get approved when it was so clear that that was a major threat from that building?
Thank you, Senator. So our Pittsburgh field office did the advance. During that advance, not only were they discussing amongst themselves about mitigating the line of sight, but also they were discussing with other agencies that were supporting it. Our counter snipers met with their counterparts. The team lead and team lead met. They walked the site. They identified the AGR building. And if I may, Senator, if I could point out something right now, if I may, and we will place this for the record, but this is the point of view. This is from the second floor of the AGR building. This point of view is the point of view where the counter sniper team locally was posted. The gold arrow indicates where the shooter fired from. Looking left, why was the assailant not seen?
It's a good question.
When we were told that building was going to be covered, that there had been a face-to-face that afternoon, that our team leads met, this was the view.
I don't know why he's so upset, though. He's the
Let
one.
me show you another view, Senator. B.
Like, why is he pissed off? Like, isn't this his job? Maybe he's pissed off
This
that other people
view
bailed, but
is a reenactment by one of my agents. Laying flat. There was a 5-inch rise on the middle of that roof. The assailant would have had to present his bore over that to get his shot off. The view underneath reflects the perspective that he would have had. Again, I call your attention back to the first exhibit if they'd have looked left. Give me C.
maybe this is his way of just taking radical responsibility for the bullshit. I don't know.
This is what our counter sniper team saw. Shooter, no elbows. You barely make out the crown of his head. Below it, the assailant up prone. And let me just tell you, our counter sniper, this individual, I know him. I consider him a friend. He has covered me operationally in conflict zones. And when I did my time on the president's detail, he exemplifies the courage, the skill, and the ability to respond under great stress in such short time to neutralize a threat and prevent further loss of life. Getting back to your question, Senator, these were discussions that were had between the Pittsburgh field office, the local counterparts, and everyone supporting that visit that day. And that's why when I laid in that position, I could not, and I will not, and I cannot understand why there was not better coverage, or at least somebody looking at that roof line when that's where they were posted.
Director Rowe, the Secret Service, state and local law enforcement were on multiple communication channels, is my understanding, during that time.
So is
And as a result,
is he trying to just like pass the buck to local law enforcement? Is that why he's so upset?
law enforcement was only able to call in to a state command center that was then relayed from the Secret Service. This seemed to be a recurring issue in emergency situations that we're finding with the federal
that would be
government, that there's
something,
not a
wouldn't it?
seamless way to communicate, particularly if you're relying on local law enforcement to deal with what was clearly a major vulnerability.
Yeah, he's trying to
Local
pass
law
the
enforcement in
buck. That's
Butler
why he's
told my
upset.
staff that they had no way of communicating directly with the Secret Service. And if I listened to Mr. Bates saying there was about 30 seconds between when the local law enforcement reported that there was a man on the roof with a gun.
Hey, Michael, thank you for the super chat. Good to see you. Even if it is just gross incompetence, none of these people want a decades-long career nuked. They'll lie. Yeah, I mean, well, it's kind of legit, I think. I mean, I like, I guess I understand that perspective. I appreciate the money.
30 seconds. If it's communicated directly to a counter sniper team, would that be enough time to react prior to the firing of those shots?
Senator, if we'd had that information, they would have been able to address it more quickly. It appears that that information was stuck or siloed in that state and local channel. I will tell you, though, that there were our tactical elements did have, not only did they have embeds from Butler County ESU with them, but they also had radios on the tactical net. It is troubling to me that we did not get that information as quickly as we should have. We didn't know that there was this incident going on. And the only thing we had was that locals were working an issue at the 3 o'clock, which would have been the former president's right-hand side, which is where the shot came. Nothing about man on the roof, nothing about man with a gun. None of that information ever made it over our net.
So that will
How?
change?
Wait.
Yes, sir. We are working right now.
This is a good point. There were literally people on the ground, like drunk Trump supporters, yelling that there was a man with a gun. So how weren't they aware of this?
Now to figure out the interoperability and also make sure that we do have access to those channels, whether through a counterpart system or some other means.
Very good. Ranking Member Paul, you're recognized for your questions.
Director Rowe, I'm encouraged by your attitude and what you brought here today, what you've talked about as far as immediate changes that you've made, and I hope you'll follow through with that. I'm encouraged by the fact that you acknowledge that it's indefensible that the roof was unattended. Would you say the roof being unattended breaches standard protocol for setting up a security perimeter?
What I would say, Senator, is that that roof should have had better coverage, and we will get to the bottom of if there were any policy violations.
I would think indefensible would go along with breaching protocol, and I can't imagine how indefensible would not be breaching protocol. What I would caution, though, is that I sense, and you're the Secret Service, and these people are your friends, and they are heroic people who do good things, that we can't let our friendships blind us from responsibility. So someone's in charge of the security at the zone. Would the Secret Service be in charge of the entire operation and they work with law enforcement, but they're in charge? The person in charge of the entire operation is the Secret Service, not the local police.
You're correct, sir. This is a failure of the Secret Service.
So that's what I mean. And look, I don't wish anybody harm. I appreciate the bravery of the Capitol Hill police. I was at the shooting at the ball field. I've heard 100 shots coming my way. Fortunately, none came to me. But I appreciate the bravery of all the people who protect us. But there's also the idea that there are certain mistakes that don't make you a bad person, but they're just inexcusable if you made that mistake. So for example, let's say you determine, well, local police should have been on there and they told us, and local police says, no, they didn't tell us to do it. And it's a he said, she said. Still, ultimately, the agent in charge should be walking the grounds and say, there's a roof 100 yards away from the stadium with a clear sight. Someone's got to be on the roof. Local police, I told you to get on the roof. Get on the roof. Or you put the Secret Service. So ultimately, the buck doesn't pass along to somebody. Whoever's in charge is in charge. But really, I think it would be helpful to all of us. I know the process has to be meted out, but there needs to also be a process for protecting the next Trump rally. The fact that whoever was in charge in Butler next week is not in charge of a rally in Las Vegas. And so I think you really should say that. You should simply say that the leadership from that event is going through a process, but until that process, they won't be in charge of the Democrat National Convention. That would reassure a lot of people that they won't be in charge of security until it's determined. Can you tell us something to that accord?
Yes, sir. So I can tell you that the team planning the Democratic National Convention, that is a national special security event. That team has been on the ground. That's from D.C. With support from our Chicago field office. But I just want to reiterate that our Pittsburgh field office staff, they are wearing this harder than anybody right now in the Secret Service. Right. They feel completely demoralized. And what I'm trying to do is also let them know that, listen, they need to be focused on the mission at hand. I also have to walk a tightrope here and make sure that I am not
I
tainting any future
from
discipline action.
I understand, and I have great respect for all the officers, but ultimately someone had to be in charge and someone made a terrible error, and it's an error of judgment. The big error is the roof. But another big error is we have 90 minutes of a suspicious person. Now, Senator Durbin mentioned the rangefinder. None of these are enough to shoot a suspicious person, but they certainly, you would think, would be enough to stop the proceedings. That's where I think you get to the second major management or judgment error of this. Now, Trump's done probably 100 rallies like this. How often at one of his rallies are there 90 minutes of looking at one person and at least a half a dozen pictures of that person? How often does that happen? And is it against protocol to let a proceeding go on when you've got a suspicious person, 90 minutes worth of people talking about this person, and we don't stop the proceeding? Does that defy protocol?
So Senator, so while there's 90 minutes in total from when he's first identified by local law enforcement, we have about a 30-minute window. But at no time is there anything ever communicated about weapon or harm. And I
Not
think
talking
that's where
about
the
a
threat.
weapon, you shoot people with a weapon.
Sure.
Without a weapon, we're talking about people you stop and say, he had a backpack, which was probably big enough to have the AR-15 in it. In all likelihood, the backpack has the weapon in it. So a guy with a big backpack would never get through the perimeter. So once again, a big mistake was not having the perimeter wide enough to prevent people from shooting outside the perimeter. But the thing is, he would have never gotten through the perimeter, right? His backpack would have been checked. But people with big backpacks are very suspicious. And I would think he's been seen 6 times.
Dog
But you got
weighing in
20 or
on the
30
downstairs.
minutes of knowing about it. But the thing is, there's all kinds of chatter going on about this. And you would think the chatter going on with the local police is on a police radio. And a policeman with that radio is standing in the control tent. So you get that communication. So there's a huge and massive breakdown. But really, my question is, how often has this happened at other rallies where there's a half a dozen pictures and 90 minutes of people talking about a suspicious person? I just can't imagine that it's real common.
So, Senator, at rallies, there are people that come to the attention of law enforcement for a variety of reasons. If they come to our attention for some other activity that might, put it a little bit, hey, we probably need to go check that individual out. This happens, and that's why we attempt to locate them. That's why it's important for us to try to find them. And it's important to have the information. And so local law enforcement did their very level best to try to locate him. They did provide us the photos 30 minutes prior. It just, he evaded any detection by law enforcement.
But once again, it's the overall person in charge. It's a terrible breakdown. It's a terrible management decision not to have stopped it. There was a chance to stop the proceeding. And the question is not whether there's enough information to take down an individual. It's a much lower standard to say, hey, we're going to wait until we get this individual. The roof and the 90 minutes of it, both, I think, are failure of your protocol. And I think when that's determined, the person who made these decisions can't be in a position of authority again.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for holding this hearing. I appreciated Director Rowe when we had the classified briefing, and also today, taking responsibility for the agency and your own personal emotion and reaction to your visit and what had gone wrong. For the people in my state that keep asking me, I just don't get how he got on the roof. I know we've gone through great details and a lot of examination. Could you just give a minute on what went wrong and how you think it can be fixed? Because I think it's just going to help to dispel the conspiracy theories. There are some people that think it didn't really happen, which of course is completely ridiculous. It did. There are some people that think all kinds of conspiracies went on within the government, which is also false. But could you just tell them what went wrong so they understand?
Yes. No, thank you, Senator. I thought long and hard about this. I think this was a failure of imagination. A failure to imagine that we actually do
Failure
live
of imagination.
in a very dangerous world where people do actually want to do harm to our
Really?
protectees. I think it was a failure to challenge our own assumptions. The assumptions that we know our partners are going to do everything they can, and they do this every day. But we didn't challenge our own assumptions of, we assume that someone's going to cover that. We assume that there's going to be uniform presence. We didn't challenge that internally during that advance. So moving forward, I've directed that when we're talking to people and we're making requests, we are very specific about what we want. We are providing explicit instructions on exactly what our expectation is and what we need them to do and what we want them to do. That's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward beyond this. And let me just tell you that our state and local law enforcement partners are the best. So this belief that somehow
It's just like,
they are less.
what happened is we couldn't imagine a scenario in which someone would actually try to shoot Donald Trump. Isn't that the entire reason that the Secret Service exists to imagine scenarios in which crazy people would try to assassinate political? Like, do they have any other job? How is it possible that the answer to what went wrong is we failed to imagine a scenario in which someone might actually try to harm the former president? That makes no sense at all.
Than federal law enforcement, or they're less than the Secret Service. They're out there patrolling communities every day. They're the ones out there going into hazardous conditions every day. They know their communities. They have the ability to enforce state and local laws. Our advanced agents do not.
Right.
We need them, and we need them to be partners with us. And I think we need to be very clear to them, and that may have contributed to this situation.
Yeah, appreciate that. I have the same respect. Next, one of the things you mentioned to me was, and to all of us, was in this other briefing, was just the texting protocol. And I think a lot of us think about this in non-security settings, about how people are just texting all the time instead of talking, and how it takes our eyes off, in your case, the target. Could you talk about what might have gone wrong there, and how you think things could change when there's the hope is that their eyes are constantly on the scene and on the potential targets and risks?
Thank you, Senator. So
Yep, I think
again,
that's exactly
we
right.
need
They
people
just feel
focused on
lazy.
the problem or on their area of
I agree with
responsibility.
you, Michael.
It was great that there was a text chain, but that communication needs to go over the net. It needs to go over a radio channel so that everyone has situational awareness of it. And the point I was making in the closed door briefing is that we have to get to a point now where we are using our radio systems to have that collective awareness of this. I think, one of the things that I've directed is that in addition to the interoperability, we're going to roll out common operating a common operating platform that we utilize for national special security events. We have the ability to roll that out to the field that has a Blue Force tracker in it that's able to, where you can put where all your state and local assets are, where our federal assets are. But in addition to that, I want people using the radio. So it's great that the tactical elements are talking to each other. It's great that the shift is talking to each other, but we have to be able to make sure that whenever we come across a situation, that everyone has situational awareness of this. And I will take this, in my time when I was operational in the president's detail, we were given the explicit instruction, hey, if you're going to pass it, if it's relevant enough that you feel like you need to pass that information, do it over the radio. And that was the protocol that we had. And I think over the years, perhaps with the advent of technology and smartphones, perhaps we've gotten away from that. But we need to get people back on the scope, back on mission, back focused on what they need to be responsible for.
Okay, and the next question I'll put in writing. Thank you very much of you, Mr. Abate, but it's just pointing out that we've seen this rise in threats against members of Congress, which of course is relevant to this. 8,000 just last year, more than 4 times over the past 7 years. I'll want to ask you in writing about the steps that the Justice Department is taking to prioritize these cases. I know there's been some changes made.
Yes, Senator, it's of our highest priority, and we're urgently working on it 24/7 every day to protect each and every one of you here.
Appreciate it. Thank you, both of you.
Senator Carper, recognized for your question.
Thanks very much. Mr. Abate, thank you for joining us today. I have the privilege of representing Delaware, the first state to ratify the Constitution. We did that over 200 years ago, and the Constitution sort of outlines how we elect our leaders. And it changes with respect to technology over the years.
Nick should get that
but there's, for as long as we've been a country, threats to our leaders when they pursue elective office. We're going to be gathering some of us. We got a gathering in Chicago in just a few weeks. Others will be gathering in other parts of the country to help make sure that what was adopted in that original Constitution is actually carried out faithfully. And it's just incredibly important that those who aspire to elective office, those who take on those challenges, are protected, and their families are protected, as well as those who surround them. I share with my colleagues my prayers for those who have been killed or injured on July 13th. We're grateful that our one of our presidential candidates is okay, but I have a question about what I can't get over how a 20-year-old loner could somehow outsmart two of the smartest federal agencies and state agencies and law enforcement with an odds of like 1,000 to 1 and be
Yeah,
able to
that's a
almost
good
pull this off. It
question.
just blows my mind. Hopefully we'll get to the truth and all of that. I'm a Navy guy. I spent many years of my life in the Navy. I learned as a midshipman that when the ship runs aground at sea, the commanding officer is held responsible. Whether the commanding officer is awake or asleep at the helm, but the commanding officer is held responsible. And I think we have to make, at the end of the day, I'm not interested in a blame game, but I'm sure interested in finding out who was responsible and making sure that they account for their responsibility. My question is, what policies are currently in place to facilitate real
How is it actually possible that it's been what, like almost 3 weeks or something since the attempted assassination, and they don't even know who was responsible? Like, how is that actually possible? Who signed off on the plan? Who was the highest ranking person? How is it possible that there is not a very simple answer to this? There should be very clear chains of command, I would think.
time information sharing between the Secret Service and local law enforcement during an event? And what changes to information sharing practices will the Secret Service make in light of the apparent breakdown in communications on July 13th?
Thank you for that question, Senator. So we're looking at our procedures. We rely on a counterpart system, and the radio interoperability it's a complex challenge. It's not just about being able to find whatever frequency our local counterparts are on and then just piping it in. There's some technical challenges that have to be there. So to alleviate that, we've always relied on a security room where we have representatives from the local agencies. Those individuals are there to, one, bring their own radio and then relay relevant information that would impact our security plan. I think what I'm looking at, and again, what I'm in looking at this situation is there was a unified command post, and we had our security room. And, we had communications that day at the Butler Farm site were challenging, not just challenging for the Secret Service, but challenging for locals. There were some cellular issues. There were radio issues. And you saw that with the testimony from the colonel from Pennsylvania State Police last week in the House. So I think as I'm thinking about this, I think we need to consider what is our model moving forward? And I think we need to be where the greatest amount of partners are when that information is being discussed. The other thing that I'm looking at is we need to also make sure that we have redundancies as far as cellular on the ground or additional repeaters. And so I've directed our chief information officer to do that, and we are rolling assets out now supporting campaign sites.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Mr. Bay, quick question. Based on the initial information you've gathered from the investigation, do you believe there were any actions taken by the shooter in the weeks, days, or hours leading up to the shooting that should have caused alarm and grabbed the attention of law enforcement?
He did not have any interactions with law enforcement leading up to this, Senator. We haven't found anything yet that would have alerted law enforcement or FBI or Secret Service to his intention activities in advance of this event. I will note, however, to your prior question, that we do have a very strong relationship, an integrated relationship between FBI and Secret Service and every other federal, state, local agency you can imagine. We have constructs like the Joint Terrorism Task Forces and Violent Crime Task Forces where we're cross-embedded with each other. And when it comes to this event and others like it, we're always talking in advance. In fact, with respect to this event, we did have a meeting between U.S. Secret Service and FBI in the days leading up to the event to assess whether there was any information or intelligence pertaining to a threat against
What did the
the
FBI
rally
say?
or to former President Trump or anyone else there. There was an absence of that in the lead up specifically. And again, none of us had any information in our holdings with regard to the ultimate shooter.
All right, thank you for that. Thanks very much, both of you.
Next on the Senate Judiciary Committee is Senator Grassley.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce my oversight letters and investigative documents into the record. This is information I've already made public.
Without objection.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to call my colleagues' attention to a legislation that Senator Cortez Matos and I've introduced would require Senate confirmation of the Director of the Secret Service. I think this is very important because no other.
I really think there should be like age limits on elected officials. I used to not think this. I was so naive about it. I was like, you know what, Carlin, there are age limits. They're called elections. And if people don't want old people representing them, they just shouldn't vote for old people. But now I understand that the American public is too stupid to be left in charge of voting. This is why I have fully embraced the idea of a worthy fascist dictator coming to power, because the American public cannot be relied upon to vote correctly. Republicans can't even choose good candidates. Well, you know what? Actually, you know what's kind of funny? Democrats have almost figured this out. Democrats are like this far away from just selecting the nominee. Like that's basically what they did. There's no one that's voted for Kamala Harris. They rigged the last primary for Joe Biden. So Democrats have kind of figured this out. Democrats are like, if we let the people vote, they aren't going to vote for the candidates that we want. And so we're just not going to allow them to vote at all. This is what they did when Joe Biden won the primary. They basically talked everyone into dropping out. So it was Joe Biden versus Bernie Sanders. And then everyone else's votes from like Buttigieg and like all the other people who were in the campaign. I don't even remember, like Amy Klobuchar, I think, like all of their votes went to Biden. And then it was Bernie Sanders left holding the bag. That's the second time the DNC screwed over Bernie Sanders. They did the same thing in 2016. So this is like 3 presidential primaries in a row where the Democrat voters have not actually had any involvement at all in selecting the nominee of the party. So the Democrats have got this figured out. They're like, if we rely on the people will make the wrong choice. Republicans still have not figured this out. Because if they rely on their voters, then it's just going to be horrible candidate after horrible candidate after horrible candidate after horrible candidate. So it's like, I really feel like we need to start putting some common sense restrictions on things. Like we have a lower age limit. I want a fucking upper age limit. I don't want to be listening to old people when I'm watching congressional hearings. I mean, 1 or 2 old people, I guess, is fine. But like this entire thing is just old people. It doesn't give me confidence in the system. It's like old people who have been in Washington, D.C. forever who are old. Thank you, Michael. I want competency tests. I think we should bring back reading tests for people to be able to vote. Because, I mean, like, there is a significant portion of the voting public that does not know how to read. Seriously. I want people to have to pass a reading test before they're allowed to vote. I want very strict regulations on who is allowed to run for what office. I really don't think that this is, I think this is just common sense. We need to do everything possible to prevent stupid people from voting. And yeah, and everything in English. No fucking Spanish. No Spanish. No Chinese. Mandarin, whatever. I know there are like 87 languages in China, but like whatever the main, no, none of them. No fucking foreign languages. No French, no Portuguese, no, I don't give a fuck. No Farsi, I don't care. No foreign languages. English only.
Other agency has a no fail mission. Mr. Rohr, In your written testimony, you stated that that to prevent similar lapses like the one on July 13th from happening again, you'll ensure every event site security plan is thoroughly vetted by multiple experienced supervisors before it's implemented. Based on your testimony, the security plan for the Butler event deviated from the Social Security standards. How would vetting by multiple experienced supervisors fix that?
So, Senator, I think having many eyes on a particular problem set helps. That way you don't have tunnel vision. You just focus in on one thing. And so that's why I think it's important, not only at the field office level, but also at the detail level. And part of what we had started doing with the former president's detail is having them send out site agents, having them send out supervisors.
Yeah, hang on. I'm suggesting fascism with American characteristics. Ever since I started talking about fascism, people are like, Carlin, you don't even know the definition of fascism, and what you're proposing isn't really fascism by the proper definition. And what are you even defining as fascism? I am defining a new form of fascism. American fascism with American characteristics. I want an America first fucking dictator. That is my that is my definition of fascism. I want fascism with American characteristics.
And I think having that collaboration and having additional eyes to examine the problem will make sure that we're not missing anything. And I think I want that surety for myself. And I think
you've answered my question.
Yes,
Let me
sir.
go on. Also to you, in your written testimony, you stated that you, quote, regret that information wasn't passed to Congress and the public sooner and with greater frequency. What's your communication plan going forward to ensure that the American people in Congress are fully informed?
So, Senator, we just started a rolling production that is bicameral. So we made our first rolling production last week. We made one yesterday. We will continue to do that. And my view is that sunshine is the best disinfectant, and we intend to provide information to Congress as it carries out its oversight function.
Okay. Also to you, I made public documents that show Secret Service deployed a counter unmanned aerial system operator on July the 13th. According to the Secret Service, the drone system was supposed to be operational at 3 p.m. that day. However, we've been told by Secret Service that because of cellular bandwidth problems, it wasn't operational until about 5:20 of that day. If the system was operational, Secret Service would have had the ability to detect the shooter and his own drone use. Why is the Secret Service dependent upon local cellular network? Does the Secret Service have a backup plan in place?
Yes, thank you, Senator. And that is something that I briefed in the closed door. And again, something that has cost me a lot of sleep because of the eventual outcome of the assailant. That what if we had geolocated him because that counter UAS platform had been up? It is something that I have struggled with to understand, and I have no explanation for it.
Okay.
It is something that I feel as though we could have perhaps found him. We could have maybe stopped him. Maybe on that particular day, he would have decided this isn't the day to do it because law enforcement just found me flying my drone. People fly drones all the time on the peripheries of our sites. And we go out and we talk to them and we ascertain what their intentions are. On this day in particular, because of the connectivity challenge, as you noted, there was a delay and he flew his drone at 3:51 approximately. So moving forward, we are leveraging resources from the Department of Homeland Security and others to make sure that we have dedicated connectivity so that we're not reliant on public domain so that we can ensure that whatever assets we have in place, those assets are operational. And that is my commitment to you, that we are going to make sure we're going to do that. And that is something we are moving out on.
Thank you, and I hope that you'll answer some of my other questions in writing.
Senator Johnson, recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Acting Director Rowe, in our secure briefing last week, I made the point that if you don't want conspiracy theories to spread, you need to provide information. You know, I appreciate these photos today. These things could have been released literally within days, and a whole lot more information as well. So Congress needs to provide oversight. We don't have certain investigatory tools like you have, but what we can do is do interviews. So Acting Director Rowe, did you receive our letter from July 25th requesting interviews with 13 individuals of the Secret Service?
We are in receipt of that letter, Senator.
And I don't know, Director, Deputy Director Abate, have you seen that letter as well? Do you know who we're requesting interviews with?
Senator, I have not seen
Okay.
the letter.
Do you know whether those individuals submitted to interviews with the FBI, Acting Director Rowe?
We're in the process. Those employees are being interviewed if they have not already been interviewed, sir.
Are those interviews being transcribed?
The FBI interviews, sir?
Yes. But we have 302s on those.
Yes, Senator, we
Okay,
will.
when will Congress get those 302s? When will we get those transcriptions of those interviews?
Senator, I'll take that back and we'll get those to you as soon as possible.
So Acting Director Rowe, when will those individuals be made available for Congress, for this committee to interview them?
Senator, we'll make them available.
How soon? Because memories are short. They can be influenced by events. We need these transcribed interviews as soon as possible.
We will get that done, sir.
Does the Secret Service use encrypted communications at events?
On our radio nets, we do, sir.
Are those memorialized? Are those saved?
The radio traffic from Butler, we did not have recordings.
Do you normally?
Not on the road outside of DC or outside of a presidential or vice presidential stop.
So communications between Secret Service agents will not be available like we've gotten the communications from local law enforcement.
I'm sorry, Senator.
So we're not going to be able to get those communications. You didn't save them,
No, sir.
which is very unfortunate.
It is, sir. And moving forward, I've directed that we will now start recording those so that we will have them moving forward.
And by the way, I'm going to ask for a number of things at the very end to be entered in the record, but one of my preliminary findings is that the Secret Service did not attend the 9 o'clock briefing the day of the event. In your testimony, you said that a site briefing was
What?
conducted with Secret Service personnel and law enforcement partners supporting the event. Those both can't be true. So local law enforcement do not believe Secret Service was present at the 9 o'clock briefing. Were they or were they not?
So, Senator, with respect to the snipers that went on national television and gave an interview and said that they did not get a briefing from the Secret Service, they were supporting through mutual aid, and our personnel briefed the tactical team leader was leading that element that was providing this counter sniper.
Acting Director Rowe, you said that the Secret Service provides explicit instructions to the locals. Were explicit instructions provided to cover the roof of the AGR building and locals just not follow it, or were those explicit instructions not provided?
It's my understanding what was communicated is that the locals had a plan and that they had been there before.
So an awful lot of the chatter on social media has to do with is there partisanship?
Do any of you guys have any of you guys ever had the experience of like going a new place that you've never been before with that friend of yours, and that friend of yours is always getting into some sort of trouble? But and the benefit to getting into trouble is you usually know how to get yourself out of trouble too. But like usually like you got this friend that there's always just something going on with, and you for some reason have decided to go someplace with this friend that you've never been before, and the friend says to you, "Don't worry, I have a plan. I've done this before." And those words are like the thing that precipitates every fucking thing going wrong. And then you ending up in jail, or you ending up like knocked out on a sidewalk. I mean, obviously I've never had this experience, but like, do you guys know what I'm talking about? It always and forever starts with some guy saying, "Don't worry, I've done this before. I have a plan." And then providing no other details after that. Yeah. The Secret Service are like the person who should know better that trusted the friend that was like, "Don't worry, bro, I got this." Exactly. That's what it is. That's what it is. They the Secret Service and the local cops in Pittsburgh are basically in The Hangover. Yeah, it's true. I had an idea this morning. I wonder if you can FOIA the full letter from Kamala Harris to CPUSA. Well, that wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But maybe you can FOIA it, Naruto. It doesn't always have to be me doing these things. Appreciate it.
In the Secret Service, providing coverage for some individuals and none for others. About Secret Service coverage or additional coverage enhancements being denied. Was there ever requested additional coverage for Mar-a-Lago?
Senator, we have provided additional resources to the Mar-a-Lago
What
residents.
was coverage asked for and denied ever?
I'll have to research that, Senator, but I'm happy to tell you we have made significant investments since the former president has left office. Over $4 million of technology, resources, and alarms.
Documents will come out eventually to make the point one way or the other. This is an important piece of information that Congress needs to have.
Senator, we'll make those available to you, the investments we've made.
There's a report today by Susan Crabtree of Real Clear Politics saying that you denied sniper coverage outside of driving distance to D.C. Is that true?
Really?
That is a false statement, sir.
Well, that is incorrect.
That is incorrect.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of information you need to refute with documentation. Deputy Director Abate, you said this is an assassination attempt and domestic terrorism. It's obviously assassination attempt. Why make the distinction? What is different about that?
We think it's important to cover all the possibilities here in the reality of what we're dealing with and what we've all seen, Senator. And we've learned lessons from the past. The tragic shooting at the baseball field was referenced here. We've learned the lesson from that. That was not opened properly. And we've made changes in the Bureau, and it's reflected here in terms of how this investigation is being approached with a completely open mind and inclusive of all the possibilities, including domestic terrorism.
I fear that makes investigation potentially partisan. Mr. Chairman, I would like to request that my July 14th letter to Attorney General Garland, Mayorkas, and Ray be entered in the record. It asks for all kinds of information, documentation, asks a lot of questions. My preliminary findings of July 21st and July 23rd, including timelines, a bunch of questions as well, be entered in the record. And then our updated timeline dated today. This goes not only by minute, by second. And we will continue to update this timeline as more information becomes public. This is the way you do investigation. We need to find out literally second by second what happens. So the American public understands the truth.
Without objection, so ordered.
Senator Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to both of our chairman and ranking members for holding this incredibly important hearing critically for the American people to understand the safety and security that is being provided to our national leaders. Thank you both for being here and for, again, answering the hard questions. This is a time of, I think, heightened attention, deservedly so, not only for our national leaders, but for the teacher who decides that they're going to go and participate in their democracy, or the firefighter who wants to hear the voice and vision of the potential next leader of this country. My thoughts and prayers really are with those Pennsylvania families who have lost loved ones or have been critically injured. As I offer my questions today, it would be in service to those, to preventing future incidents. But in the one question of looking backward to the event on the 13th, Director Abate, can you just talk a little bit about how did Mr. Crooks, how was he able to get an AR-15 onto the roof of that building?
That's a good question.
Does your investigation illuminate anything that we have learned to help to make that point more clear?
We don't have definitive evidence yet as to how he got the rifle up there. Based on everything that's been collected thus far, photos, video, eyewitness accounts, we do believe he likely had it in the backpack.
Broken down in the backpack?
We're still assessing that. Our laboratory has looked at the rifle itself and measured that against the backpack itself. And if placed in this backpack, it would extend outside. It would have been visible. We don't have anyone who observed him with the backpack with a rifle, a barrel, or other part of it sticking out of the backpack. But the rifle would not have fit fully into this backpack to be concealed and whole. We have video that was recently found of the shooter walking in a distance from his car just before 6 p.m., about 5:56, I believe. And based on everything we have, we assess that he returned to his vehicle at that time, got the backpack, and then proceeded back to the area and to the AGR building. And then he's observed, of course, on the roof, just minutes later, holding the backpack in front of him. In fact, there's dash cam footage from a police vehicle that shows him briefly traversing the roof with the backpack in front of him. And then it's just minutes after that that he's actually seen by the officer who I described with the rifle on the roof. It's possible that he broke the rifle down, though we don't have conclusive evidence of that, and took it out of the bag on the roof in those moments before and reassembled it there. That's one of the theories we're looking at and working on right now.
Thank you for that. You take me right, Acting Director Rowe. Thank you for your years of dedicated service and jumping in a hot time. But you take me right to this point of communication. There's been a lot of conversation about and even in your written and verbal testimony, you have talked a lot about the communication and the disparate nature in which it's happening across the different channels. One sort of foundational question that I have is, are all elements of an event communicated on the same channel? If I lost my kid and I'm at a big rally, are local law enforcement talking on the same channel about me losing my kid that they're talking about a suspicious individual?
So when it comes to the locals, they likely have some type of common channel that they work off of in a county or an adjoining municipality. When it comes to the Secret Service, we do have various channels for various agents and our uniformed division officers working specific aspects of that advance.
So it's not possible that the delay in communication or the losing of the thread of tracking this individual was sort of lost in the commotion of all of the other communications that could have been, or maybe was sort of separate from the communications channels that were happening.
Senator, I can only speak to the Secret Service lines of communication, and we did not have anything beyond suspicious person that was communicated to us.
Last question really quickly, because I'm out of time, but Acting Director, was there any communication with the Secret Service that was talking directly with the former president's detail? That feels like there's been some question by colleagues about why the call wasn't made to delay the event. Help us understand the communication that either was or was not happening directly with the former president's detail to make the call to delay 10 minutes. We've all been to these events. They never happen on time. But to delay while this was being investigated.
So the detail, they were operating on their net, which our security room was monitoring. But again, having information of a suspicious individual, there were other calls that day of individuals that came to the attention of law enforcement, of people that needed medical attention. So it really, that particular regarding the assailant, that never really rose to a level of we should not put him out there. Had we known that there was a dangerous individual out there, we would never let a protectee go out on stage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hassan, recognized for your questions.
Oh,
Well, thank
Maggie
you very much, Mr.
Hassan
Chairman. I
from
want
New
to thank
Hampshire.
you and Chairman Durman and the ranking members for holding this joint hearing today. And thank you to our witnesses, not only for being here, but for your careers of service to our country and to the men and women you lead. I am really grateful that former President Trump is safe and extend my sympathies to the family of Corey Comparatur, who was fatally shot at the rally, and my sympathies to everyone who was injured. On July 13th, major failures nearly led to the assassination of a presidential candidate who is also a former president of the United States. The Secret Service has to be fully transparent about how this happened and how it's going to change moving forward, understanding there's also a need to balance Congress's engagement in oversight with allowing law enforcement to conduct an ongoing criminal investigation. I want to thank the agents of the Secret Service for selflessly acting to protect elected officials and their families and our former presidents. We're grateful for their sacrifices and their service, and I want to thank all law enforcement, and particularly law enforcement officers and first responders who worked to minimize harm to the crowd on July 13th. Mr. Rowe, I want to start with you. New Hampshire hosts many political rallies. Protecting the speakers and attendees at these events requires extensive coordination between state and local law enforcement, the Secret Service staff, and obviously campaign event staff. As a former governor, I've experienced some of the challenges that this type of coordination can create, but we know that this coordination is really essential to public safety. It's clear that there were significant coordination failures on July 13th. You told us earlier that the local SWAT team told the Secret Service that local law enforcement had eyes on the AGR roof. But there are reports that members of a local SWAT team never met with the Secret Service in the days before the Butler rally. What steps does the Secret Service take prior to political rallies to ensure that the agency is effectively coordinating with the candidate security details, with state and local law enforcement, and with campaign event staff?
I agree with that, Michael.
So as part of the advanced process, Senator, as happened in Butler as well, there's a police meeting. And basically that is that initiates the advance. That's bringing in all the not only emergency management officials, but all the state and local law enforcement agencies that may have aspects of supporting or assisting in that advance and on that visit. The focus of that police meeting, one, is to exchange numbers and business cards and then coordinate times for walkthroughs. There were walkthroughs of the Butler Farm site with local law enforcement agencies that were supporting that visit. And that was directly as a result of having that police meeting to begin the process of figuring out, dividing up the labor areas of responsibility.
So what you're telling me is that at that meeting, the Secret Service, the first meeting led to the walkthrough that the Secret Service does with local law enforcement, and that at least some members or directors of the local SWAT team would have been part of that process?
Well, as I understand it, the Beaver County, they were seconded to assist Butler, but the Butler ESU team were part of the advanced process.
Okay. How many agents did the Secret Service provide to plan and secure this event? And how many people from state and local law enforcement agencies supported the security of this event?
So in totality, between law enforcement, state and local and federal, there are 155 personnel at the Butler Farm site that day. All combined Secret Service, it's in the 70s. And then we had support from Homeland Security investigations that were providing post standards. And then we had approximately 70 or so various Pennsylvania state law enforcement.
Okay, thank you. I want to go to one other issue before my time expires. You've talked today and in our secure briefing about the interoperability of the Secret Service's counter-drone capability, that it failed early on, and so it didn't catch the drone flown over the site by the shooter. First, what changes you've addressed this a little bit, what changes is the Secret Service making to ensure that it has backup technology? But also, what efforts did the Secret Service undertake to coordinate with other law enforcement regarding anti-drone capability at the rally site?
We're working to determine that right now, Senator. We're getting the redundancies in place. Counter UAS authority, it is a little complex. State and locals don't necessarily have this ability to do
Right.
that. And it does require coordination with the
Hey,
FAA because
Susan,
it
thank
does,
you for
it could
becoming a member
impact
of the
commercial
channel. I
travel.
really appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you. And Mr. Chair, I'm just going to follow up. And I think one of the things that you're hearing from a lot of folks, but I'm not sure we're really clear on yet, is how is it that somebody who clearly is arousing concern from law enforcement isn't identified as suspicious, and how is it that that information doesn't get to the president, the former president's detail? So I'll follow up in writing. Thank you.
Senator Cornyn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Rowe, can you explain why the shooter's drone worked?
Because there was no counter UAS present, sir.
Well, you had a drone system, but you had bandwidth problems. The bandwidth apparently was adequate for the shooter's drone, but not for the Secret Service. Can you explain that?
I have no explanation for it, sir.
We also know that in a military context, electronic warfare or jamming capabilities are commonly used on the battlefield. Does the Secret Service have jamming capabilities or drones?
We have drones, sir, and when it comes to, I have to be very careful about how I answer this one in an open forum. What I can tell you is that we have technical security measures, sir, to address, I think, what you're asking me.
Well, the question is, can you take down a suspicious drone? Because this can be used not only for surveillance by the shooter, which obviously it was here, but also drones can be weaponized and be used as a threat to the president, or in this case the President Trump. Do you have the capacity to stop a weaponized drone?
No, what's that, Will?
What I will tell you, sir, is that we have technical security measures that we utilize at permanently protected sites. We also have the ability in a limited fashion at temporary sites. What I can tell you is that on this day, the counter UAS system had technical difficulties and did not go operational until after 5 o'clock.
So in this case, the shooter had a rifle, but somebody who wanted to kill
I think
a
this is for real. Yeah, I mean, yes, I think it's for real. I think it's one of those things that, like, you know, and here's why I think it's for real. Now, I mean, like, obviously, I don't think it was like a lone 20-year-old shooter. I think it was like the CIA or something. But here's why I think it's real. The reason that all of these elected officials are like freaked out about this is because, listen, they don't care about Trump. They wouldn't have like been upset if Trump had gotten shot or anything like that. But they care about themselves. And basically what we've heard in these hearings, we heard it in the House hearing, we've heard it in this one too, is like, jackasses, we need to know that you can protect us from getting shot. That's why they're all on the same page. This is why we're hearing the same thing from Democrats and Republicans. It's not because they have any love lost for Trump. It's like, we don't want to get shot. Like, what are you guys doing to protect us? And so like, that's why I think that all of this is real. I think the Secret Service really did fuck up. And I think that all of the people that are under Secret Service protection knows the Secret Service fucked up. And now they're like, we're going to make sure you're not going to fuck up with us. That's my general thought on the matter.
Yeah, president for former president or candidate for president would not need a rifle. They could use a drone, correct?
It is a potential threat vector.
So this individual was identified as a suspicious person. Can you explain to us when a suspicious person becomes identified as a threat?
Well, I think it's also when a weapon or some other dangerous item is then presented.
A rangefinder would not render someone a threat as opposed to somebody who was under suspicion?
I think the rangefinder is what initially brought him to the attention of local law enforcement.
And why would the president be allowed to take to the stage while a suspicious person had been identified and before the Secret Service or local law enforcement were able to investigate the circumstances?
So at that time, Senator, suspicion had not risen to the level of threat or imminent harm.
Well, you didn't, ultimately, that suspicious person did become a threat. Do you think if the president had been asked not to take the stage and during the time it took to investigate, to eliminate that suspicion, wouldn't that have been the appropriate way to deal with it?
Senator, it certainly is one way to do it. This is a challenge for law enforcement in general, is that being able to, you identify somebody that comes to your attention and you're trying to determine what are their intentions. This is a challenge for law enforcement. The individual came to the attention for suspicion. He's on the outer perimeter adjacent to the secured site. Law enforcement is circulating for him. But again, without additional information at that point, we're not rising to the level yet where perhaps we should pull him off or delay him.
And I'm just suggesting that maybe, just maybe, President Trump's appearance should have been delayed while that suspicion could be adequately investigated. But I've always thought of the Secret Service as the best of the best when it comes to their willingness to put themselves in harm's way to protect the life of their person they are detailed to. And I think you described the very rigorous process by which people are screened. And I think you mentioned the 2% standard. People who are interested in serving, only a very small fraction of those individuals are actually accepted in the Secret Service because of the high standards that your agency has. But explain to me why the Secret Service, being an elite law enforcement agency, would delegate to local law enforcement or others who did not meet that same 2% standard. In other words, isn't that something that Secret Service should have covered as opposed to delegating it to local law enforcement?
So Senator, again, this is where I went back to earlier when I said it was a failure to challenge our assumptions. We assumed that the state and locals had it. By no means do I want to diminish the commitment, and I'm sure you agree, state and local law enforcement do their jobs every day and protect the communities that you represent.
No doubt about it.
So I think what we made an assumption that there was going to be uniform presence out there, that there would be sufficient eyes to cover that there was going to be counter sniper teams in the AGR building. And I can assure you that we're not going to make that mistake again. Moving forward, I've directed our Office of Protective Operations that when our counter snipers are up, their counter snipers are up and they're on the roof as well. And we do this all the time with our colleagues in the New York City Police Department when we cover the United Nations General Assembly. And so that is our TTP moving forward.
Director Rowe, I would just submit to you that those assumptions can be lethal.
Senator Scott, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me just follow up with what Senator Corning just asked. Do you know who makes the drone that the Secret Service uses?
Thanks, Michael.
That Secret Service uses?
Yeah, the one that that didn't work. Who's the manufacturer? Is it an American-made manufacturer?
I believe it is, Senator. I'll get you we'll provide that to you in a queue for, sir.
So we talked about this the other day. There's not in our, very few times in history do our presidents get shot at. So you know that this is something that the American public is very interested in. So as Senator Johnson said, there's a lot of questions being asked. I was at church Sunday and 3 people came up to me and asked me if there was a second shooter. So there's all this information that's not, you guys are not responding to. When I was governor of Florida, I had 2 mass shootings. I had the Pulse nightclub shooting. I had the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, and we did 2 or 3 times a day local, state, and federal law enforcement, FBI, everybody involved. We answered questions. What I asked you the other day is, why aren't you doing that? What you've allowed, what both of you have allowed, you've allowed the public to ask, assume the negative. And so which I don't get. I think you should have been doing, and I think you guys should have been doing all along, at least once a day press conferences. I think that you've got to tell the public what's going on. Having a hearing is really nice. But how often are we going to do this? You're clearly not going to do it here for another month and a half. So I asked you the other day, why aren't you doing press conferences? And are you going to commit to doing press conferences? I think what you all said the other day, you're going to ask Secretary Mayorkas and Director Wray if you guys could do those daily press conferences and start giving the public information. And what's the answer?
So, Senator, that's why, one, I'm here today. I'm here today to provide information and answer those questions. And we are moving towards doing more frequent releases of information. And we are willing to do that press conference. And once we get through this hearing today, we are going to, in all likelihood, do one this week.
Okay, so what's the commitment to the public that you're going to do press conference? Are you going to, it's what, 17 days? The information, we are sitting 17 days into this and I'm getting asked questions that I can't believe are true, but the public believes it's true. So what you all are doing is you're ruining your reputation, impact the integrity of the federal government. It makes no sense to me. So are you going to commit to, are you going to do it once a month? Both and the FBI, the same thing, not just you. What did Director Wray say? Did he say you couldn't do it?
Senator, if I may jump in here. First, thank you all for your guidance in this regard. And in fact, we haven't done something every day, no doubt about that. But, we're focused from the FBI side on the investigation part as we laid out here today. We actually, based on your guidance, we did a media engagement, not a stand-up type press conference just yesterday, and laid out in full everything that I've shared here, and even beyond that, just in the interest of time. But we are, because of the intense interest in this and the implications and the national importance, we've literally provided everything through media and through journalists and here, all of the information that we have derived from the investigation thus far. We remain committed to do that in full, answering any and all questions and sharing any and all information we obtain.
Do you guys realize the value of going in front of the press and answering all their questions? You realize that if you don't do it that way, everything gets filtered. You get to put out all the information, and you should be providing. You should be every day say, this is what we know now. This is like Senator Johnson put together a timeline. You should have put together a timeline. You should immediately put out, this is what we know right now, and this is what we don't know. Like you've said, you don't know how the gun got up there, right? You've said it, but why have that should have been out all along. Say, we're looking at it. It doesn't make any sense. We've done this. We've done this. We've done this. If you do, I just don't get it. Why what you're doing? You're ruining. I've said this about the FBI. The people that work at the FBI, people work at Secret Service, they're great people. You're a black hole. You lose the support of the American public because people don't believe you're being direct with them. So I completely disagree with your approach. I just want to finish. I've got like everybody else. I said I did a letter July 18th. I haven't gotten any answers yet. I want to put it into the record, and I'd love to get the answers to this because this is what the public is asking for. They want more information. They want to know what happened, who's going to be held accountable, and how we're going to make sure this never happens again. Thank you.
Without objection, it'll be entered in the record.
Is anyone else bored? I'm getting
Thank you,
bored.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm getting really bored. Maybe it's just because I'm tired, but how are
Thank
people
you for
feeling?
being here to both of you, and more important, thank you for your
Maybe
professional
house hearings are just
dedication,
more entertaining.
your personal bravery, and your devotion to the ideals of law enforcement. I know for both of you, this moment is a painful one, and Acting Director Rowe, I've heard you
We'll watch a little bit
speak
more,
in
but
a
I think I'm
private
going to wrap
setting
up
very
early, 'cause
emotionally and
I just
passionately about the need to take responsibility
boring.
and take action that will assure accountability. And I know that you share a commitment along with Director Abate, to full public disclosure to the maximum extent possible. We can make speeches at you, and I've made one myself in that private setting about the need for broader, fuller disclosure to the public, not just in press conferences, but
We'll watch a little
in
bit
the
more.
course of your investigation about what you know and feel you can disclose without compromising your investigation. Let me ask you, last week, Senator Peters and Paul, along with Senator Johnson and myself, sent requests to both of your agencies to produce documents. We've only received a handful so far. Can you commit to when we can expect those documents?
Ted Cruz gets feisty.
We will get them
Let's
to
fast-
you as quickly
fast
as we
forward to
can,
Ted
Senator.
Cruz.
And
Well,
we're,
can we expect them this week?
Let's fast
we will-
forward to Ted
we will-
Cruz
we will work to meet that deadline, sir.
because I'm about to fall asleep.
And
I'm sorry. I
when
got
can we-
real tired today. It looks like
But
Josh
do you
Hawley.
know if someone was supposed to be on the roof? Do you
Oh, there's
know?
Ted Cruz. Okay, hang on.
For more security
Okay, we'll back up. Hang on.
committed.
Ted Cruz will bring us back to
The things
life.
here quickly. Well, whistleblowers tell me that in fact, law enforcement were stationed to be on that roof and that law enforcement abandoned their post because it was too hot. Is that accurate?
Senator, I have heard that as well. Again, they posted up inside. And I think moving forward, as I said earlier, we're going to ensure that state and local counter snipers are on roofs.
But do you know if someone was supposed to be on the roof? Do you know if someone was in fact? That's what the whistleblowers tells me. That may or may not be accurate. Do you know that to be the fact? Was somebody posted to the roof, local law enforcement or whomever?
I do not know that to be a fact.
Well, can I ask you why you don't know that?
Again, Senator, we are looking at this and they should have been on that roof. And the fact that they were in the building is something that I'm still trying to understand.
I just want to express my frustration, Director, that 17 days or whatever it's been, that whistleblowers are telling us more than you are, and you don't know, you haven't ascertained if there was supposed to be law enforcement on the roof.
But I
That
wanted
seems
the
like a
whole
pretty
hearing.
basic fact. I'm also told that local law enforcement suppliers offered the Secret Service drones, and you declined them. Is that true?
So Senator, one, I've been very transparent and forthcoming.
Your agency has not been transparent and forthcoming, so please, let's not go there.
I have been forthcoming, sir.
That remains to be seen. You've been on the job a few days. So far, you've fired nobody. Now, the drones.
Thank you,
Were
Senator.
you offered drones?
Senator
So there
Hawley.
was an offer to fly a drone on that day.
And why did you deny it?
Again, I think the ability of local law enforcement to provide an asset, we probably should have taken them up on it if it was offered.
Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rowe, thank you for being here. I agree with what you said at the outset, that the individual Secret Service agents demonstrated remarkable personal courage, putting their bodies in between the line of sight of the shooter and the president. That being said, the bravery of the line agents is quite different from the decisions of Secret Service leadership. Secret Service leadership committed catastrophic security failures, indeed the worst security failures for the Secret Service since 1981, since the attempted assassination of President Ronald Reagan. It is incumbent upon this committee to determine why those security failures happened. Just after the shooting, Secret Service put out an official statement from your spokesperson that says there's an untrue assertion that a member of the former president's team requested additional security resources and that those were rebuffed. This is absolutely false. In fact, we added protective resources and technology and capabilities as part of the increased campaign travel tempo. Was this tweet accurate?
With respect to Butler, Pennsylvania, it is accurate, sir.
It is accurate that the Trump team had not asked for additional security and had not been rebuffed.
If you're talking about Butler, Pennsylvania, all assets requested were approved. If you're talking about the media reporting of assets requested, there were times when assets were unavailable and not able to be filled, and those gaps were staffed with state and local law enforcement tactical assets.
So I'm reading from the Washington Post, July 20th, 2024. Secret Service said to have denied requests for more security at Trump events. The opening paragraph, top officials of the U.S. Secret Service repeatedly denied requests for additional resources and personnel sought by Donald Trump's security detail in the 2 years leading up to his attempted assassination, according to 4 people familiar with the requests. Is that right, that repeatedly the Trump detail asked for more resources and repeatedly Secret Service leadership turned that down?
That is not accurate, Senator. Assets are requested. There's a process that is made. And
how many requests did the Trump team or the Trump detail ask for?
I can get you that number in a queue.
You don't know now.
So I can speak to the ones that were reported in the Washington Post, and we can go through them if you like.
But you don't know how many requests there were.
In general, how many requests since 2021 that the former Trump detail has made a request for assets?
You've had 2 weeks. You had a spokesperson put something out that is false on its face. By the way, did you approve this statement when it went out?
I don't know if I did or didn't, Senator.
Has this spokesperson, is he still employed? Does he still have a job?
He is still employed, Senator.
So he lied on behalf of the Secret Service. He still has a job. Did your predecessor, the former director, did she approve this statement?
Senator, our comms team, they send out statements. They do deconflict them and they put them out.
Did she approve this statement?
I don't know if she did or did not. Senator.
And you don't know if you did either?
I don't recall approving it, Senator.
Will you commit to provide this committee in writing every written request for additional resources from the Trump campaign or the Trump detail and every response from Secret Service?
Senator, I will commit to providing responses and getting you the information that you are seeking.
Let me ask you something. And who makes the decision to deny those requests? Did you make that decision?
Which requests? Are you talking about the ones that were in the
Any of
Washington
them.
Post?
Yes.
So the process, sir, is that a detail will make a request for either staffing, technical assets, that is handled between the field office and the detail. It goes up to a logistics office between our
Okay,
office
so
and
there's a bureaucracy. Is there a decision maker?
It's not a bureaucracy, Senator.
Give me
It's
the
a
person that's
process.
the decision maker. Is there one?
Senator, it's a conversation. It's not just an absolute yay or nay.
So let me tell you what I believe. I believe that the Secret Service leadership made a political decision to deny these requests. And I think the Biden administration has been suffused with partisan politics. Did the same person who denied the request for additional security to President Trump also repeatedly deny the request for security to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose father was murdered by an assassin and whose uncle was murdered by an assassin? Did the same person make that decision?
Senator, what I will tell you is that Secret Service agents are not political.
Okay, you're not
And nor
answering
do
my,
they
but you know what?
allow. I'll get
Leadership
to your
appointed by the
answer,
president,
Senator, if you
leadership
allow me
appointed
to.
by the president is political. I have a simple question, yes or no. Did the same person deny the Trump request that also denied the RFK request? That's a yes or no question.
Senator, that is not a yes or no question.
It is a yes or no
There was
question.
a process for a candidate nominee to receive protection.
Is there, does the buck stop anywhere? Does the buck stop anywhere?
Bipartisan process that the Hill
It's a
participates
bicameral, bipartisan process. What camera?
for a candidate.
You
for
are not a
candidate
Congress. You don't
protectee.
have a camera.
Mr. Kennedy submitted a request that was referred over to the CPAC.
Okay, you're refusing to answer the question. Let me ask, because the failures on that day were catastrophic. By the way, is it true that on the day of the Butler event that Secret Service transferred agent from President Trump to the First Lady?
No, sir, that's not true.
That's been widely reported.
It's not true. There was one airport agent that actually went on the manpower request for the Trump detail. They handled the arrival at the airport.
What
for
is
the First Lady
what was the
and
relative size of the Trump detail compared to the detail that is assigned to the President or the First Lady?
Senator, the former president travels with a full shift, just like the president.
What's so the exact same size? Is that your testimony that President Trump had the same size detail that President Biden has?
On the day of in Butler, the agents surrounding him, it is the same number of agents surrounding the president today. There is a difference between a sitting president who also not only
Hold on, you're using president in a way that is not clear. Is it your testimony that in Butler, Pennsylvania, Donald Trump had the same number of agents protecting him that Joe Biden has at a comparable event?
I'm telling you the shift, the close protection shift surrounding.
That's a yes
what
or
you
no.
asked me, Senator, and I'm trying to answer it.
You are not answering it. Is it the same number of agents or not?
Senator, there is a difference between the sitting president of the United States.
Then what's the difference?
The difference?
2x, 3x, 5x,
National
10x?
command authority to launch a nuclear strike. Sir,
I'm
there
not
are other
asking-
assets.
How many
that
more
travel with
agents?
the president that
Sir,
the former president
sir,
will
you are
not get.
refusing to
But
answer
the number
straight-
of Secret Service
Sir,
agents protecting him.
Stop interrupting me.
Go ahead,
You are
Senator.
refusing to answer clear and direct questions. I am asking the relative difference in the number of agents between those assigned to Donald Trump and those assigned to Joe Biden. I'm not asking why you assign more to Joe Biden. I'm asking, is the difference, is it 2x? Is it 3x? Is it 5x? Is it 10x?
Senator, I will get you that number so you can see it with your own eyes.
Senator Marshall, you're recognized for your questions.
Well, that was
Thank
spicy.
you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, guys. I think I am going to end it there, honestly. And I apologize if anyone was deeply enthralled by this, but I was actually deeply bored by most of this. And we got some spicy stuff with Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz at the end. I shout out to I think, Judy in the chat who let us know that things got spicy today. Maybe it's just because I'm tired. It's my fault. I should have gotten more sleep. But guess what? I'm going to go take a nap. And we're going to come back in 2 hours. And we're going to do Disenrage with me and Jennifer. And tonight on Disenrage, Jennifer and I are going to be talking about different visitations that we've had by spirits and ghosts and things. And we're going to share our stories. And if you've ever been visited by a spirit or a ghost, you can come and share your stories as well in the chat. We're looking forward to it. Disenrage is Tuesdays at 9 p.m. It is a nice little break from all of the bullshit, from all of the nonsense, from all of the dystopia, from all of the craziness, and we just talk about, spirituality and ghosts and aliens and crystals and tarot cards and chakras and things that are nice. And we don't have to, we all take a little bit of a break, all right? So I'm going to go take a little nap, and we will be back in a couple hours. Thank you guys for stopping by. I do appreciate you. We'll see you soon. Bye.